Hey y'all, so I got this question from someone on Instagram who is a hospice chaplain, and they wanted to know specifically, what do I do when my census is low? For those of you who are not in hospice and you're in hospital chaplaincy, you might be like, what is a census? But what do I do when my patient caseload is low? How do I keep myself busy? And I thought that was a great question, and I promised I'd answer it with a video, so here we go. So the first thing that I would say is I've actually experienced that and still am experiencing that, even though I've been with the agency that I'm with now for a year. I was hired for a territory that is a new territory. And so it takes time to build relationships in that area with facilities, with physicians, and all the things. So what my agency did was they changed my position when they made me full-time, so that in addition to keeping the small census I now have more than enough work to do because I handle the GIP patients at 2 hospitals. So that's how my agency addressed me having a small caseload. But there are other things you can do. The first thing I will say is what is in your control. What's in your control is how many times you visit someone. So if you got a small caseload, that's an opportunity for you to increase your visit frequency. So if you see people normally 1 or 2 times a month, maybe you bump it up to seeing those people weekly because the caseload is so small. And what's kind of cool about that is that the more you touch base with them and build that relationship with them, the deeper you can go with those people. So you can look at it as an opportunity to go deeper with patients when you have fewer patients on your census. So if you're only visiting people 1 or 2 times a month, which is what my standard rhythm is for patients, you may increase that to maybe 3-4 times a month. So you're going weekly. That's the first thing you could do. The second thing you could do, and refer back to my previous video about how you get visits, is make sure every time you get a visit, you can't really afford a decline, right? You can't really afford for patients to be like, I don't want spiritual care. I don't want to see a chaplain, that sort of thing. You want to get really good about introducing what it is you do and how you might be able to support them. I made a video about that. I would encourage you to check that out. Because you want to get as many yeses as you can, because you have such a small caseload, you might not get a patient for a couple more weeks. So that's the other thing, is you want to increase your conversions, right? So from lead, so patient coming in, to actually seeing you. I forget sometimes, guys, my background is I have a sales and a business background. I was an entrepreneur for over 25 years. So every now and then language sneaks in, like lead and conversions and things of that nature, because that is very much so metrics that I track even still in my chaplaincy work. So that's the second thing you could do, is just make sure you're getting in front of as many people as possible. Those are really the only 2 things in your control. That's just the truth. The rest of it is a marketing problem, okay? You can make yourself available, and I did that as well. Make yourself available to go out on visits to facilities or with physicians, with the marketing team, with the sales reps. You can make yourself available for that. But here's other things that you could possibly do to help possibly increase visibility, which could turn into patients, but that's not really the primary goal. But it will make you still feel like you're using your gifts and talents and contributing to patients' well-being. Grief groups. Get out into the community and offer grief support. If you have patients that are in facilities in your small census, going and talking to those directors about possibly doing a grief support group could be a fantastic way for you to offer support to the patients and the residents, because it wouldn't just be your patients that would be coming to that grief group, but it would be open to any resident in that building, right? And so you're offering support at a different way and at a different level. And there are many facilities who want groups. They're looking for things to keep their residents engaged in. And so you're actually helping them to come up with ideas. So that's something you could do. Definitely do grief groups. Offer that. The other thing you could do is help out other chaplains. Now this is something that I caution people on because it was something that I did. When your census is low and you've got more time, you can check in and be like, oh, I'll take some patients from a chaplain that maybe has a more active territory than you do, and be like, well, I can help you see some patients in those areas. That's cool, but you don't really want to make that a habit, because once your census starts to grow, you'll end up with patients all over the place, and that will be very tiring for you to get to see those patients because they're really outside of the territory you were hired for. And now that you've got more activity in your area, getting to those more random places will become more difficult, which will be more tiring on you as a chaplain. So I say that as a last resort. But the last thing I want to offer is a mindset reframe that I actually got from a more senior chaplain on our team. When I was talking to her about me not feeling productive, me not feeling busy, because again, we're ethical people. We're chaplains, for Pete's sake. We want to feel like I'm earning my paycheck, right? One of the things she said to me, and I offer this to you, is that the company is also paying you to be available. In chaplaincy, but specifically in hospice chaplaincy, people could die at any time and want to see you. And you being available to do that is worth it. You are contributing by being available. So, because if you weren't working, like say you took that day off or something like that, that patient goes without support. So they are paying you, even if you aren't doing direct patient support. If something comes up, you're available to go and do that. That changed my thinking completely. So what do I do with my availability? I'm so glad you asked. When I have slower days, I study things that help me to be a better chaplain. I create things for the grief groups that I'm a part of. I lead meditations in our IDT meetings. I work on that. I just had my performance review, and my manager is asking me to do a training on how to offer spiritual support to atheists and agnostic and spiritual but not religious type folk. How do we support them? So that's a training I'm going to have to create, right? So I'm working on things all the time that I can offer. And if I'm not working on something, I'm reading. I'm studying. And all of those things attribute to my patient care. One of the things that we were talking about as a team, I was talking to one of my social workers, and she said that what she's noticed is that I am very much so clinically grounded in my interventions. Yeah, because I study them. I have evidence-based techniques that I use in my interventions that are grounded in theoretical orientations. And so because of that, I know some stuff. But how do I do it? Because I read. I read about Acceptance and Commitment Therapy Act. I read about motivational interviewing. I read about family systems theory. I read about how to apply that in spiritual care. And I use the time that I don't have patients to see to do it. So that's something I offer to you as well. Use that time to learn additional skills to offer better patient care. I hope this helps. If you have any other questions, y'all can hit me up too. You can find me at Hospice Chaplain Leslie on Instagram, and you can DM me. I'd be happy to answer your questions. If you're new around here, my name is Leslie, and I'm creating the videos I wish that they existed when I first started becoming a chaplain. Until next time, like, share, comment, and grace and peace.